have you at least come together in attention. You know what I'm saying? We have a very packed, jammed session for you today. As you all know, we are moving along in our process of training, and we are talking about concrete today. We have two awesome organizations that are here to give us a couple of presentations and expand our knowledge and understanding of some aspects of concrete. So I've got D&D Laser Screed here. They just finished the Landmark Aviation projects with us and did all of our hangars out there. And we were very, very impressed with this, to me, very new system of putting down concrete, and wanted to share that information with you and bring those guys here, and they were very gracious to be able to come, and we are really appreciative of that. And then of course one of my favorite companies in the world is Morley, and you know, I love you guys. Okay.
How sweet is
See,
that?
I even did the little blowing up card.
Look out.
And as you know, they just finished our San Diego New Central Library project with us, and we are very honored to have them here today to expand our knowledge, understanding, and really get a better idea from their standpoint what it is that they need from us, okay, both accounts, to actually make them more successful, which makes us more successful. And that's a really huge thing, and I think it's something that's very misunderstood sometimes by us. A couple of administrative things. Did everyone sign in? The sign-in is over there. If you have not, I'm going to ask you to go sign in right now, because I have 3 things over there that I need you to also sign besides the sign-in sheet, if you would. And then the handout is over there. And then D&D also brought some really awesome handouts too, so if you didn't get that, raise your hand up and we'll make sure you get that out as well. A couple of other things that I just want to touch base before we move on to the presentation. One, I did just get a reprint done of the safety action form, so if your site either doesn't have any, you are running low, any of those things, I brought a little stack. If you need a bigger stack than this, let me know. It's really important that we get that feedback from our subs and we give it to them both ways. Okay, not only that we're providing positive feedback, but that we're documenting corrective feedback as well. Okay, that is hugely important. These are really quite effective. Another thing, I issued a couple of these out this week, and they are cleanup notices. Okay, so again, they're the carbon copy cleanup notices. I use these for everything. You know, the guys from Morley can attest to that. I use them as little parking tickets. I use them as everything, you name it, because I keep them in here. I'll change cleanup to, hey, did you see this? You know, so they're a great tool. I like them because they fit in your vest pockets really well, and you get a copy as well as the subs right then and there. The last is our new hot work permits. I want you to all see them, so that if you now have a project that's starting up, you will get a hot work packet that comes like this. Again, we're going a lot to these NCR type forms where they write it once, we get a copy, and then they have a copy that can be displayed out in the field so that we know that they've actually gone through that preparatory process, that pre-planning process, and have actually looked it off or checked it off, I want to say. So these are out there. If you don't have any of these newer hot work permits, I did bring a stack of them, so please take them as well for your projects. They're great. They come with the hanger so that they can hang them right on their tanks and everything right there, and it's field expedient. It's been working very, very well. One of the other things, I am one of these Learning Tree awesome advisors out there, and I just got for free these really awesome Learning Tree cards. Okay, I use these cards for everything. Okay? So I have a stack of them. If you guys want some, just open it up, take some. Again, I love to keep blank cards like this in my pocket, and I learned something from Mr. Wessendorf over here. Fall down on the floor. Okay. I saw him doing this, and he showed it to me. I have to say, you know, I take pictures of a lot of stuff out on site. Okay, look at 9th and Broadway. It's 18 stories, a lot of different stories. They all look the same. And he has these index cards in his pocket that have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, just like that, all the way up to 18. And when I'm taking a picture now, I will take out the appropriate floor and just put a copy of that in the picture so that I know exactly what floor I'm on when I take a picture. And it really has been helpful to me when I go back now, frankly, and now I'm uploading things into my DVO2 system, because that's what I do, and I'm writing comments saying, hey, this is level 17, this is level 12, this is, and it's really been helpful to me to actually get those things truly rectified quicker out on site. So that's another thing these cards are really great for, okay? So a little bit of administrative stuff. Matt, anything you put out beforehand? Bob, anything you put out beforehand? If not,
What's going on?
okay. Do you want to start with the pictures or the presentation, or do you want to flip back and
I guess
forth?
we could start off with the PowerPoint piece,
Okay.
and then we'll go into some pictures, because those pictures are miscellaneous.
So this is our D&D laser screen, guys. Okay, this is Alan, okay, and Robert, thank you. I wanted to say Bob, and I knew that wasn't right, okay? So, Robert, okay, from D&D, and you have their copy of their slide presentation as well, so you can take copious notes, as well as their formal documented one, and I'll pull up the presentation right now.
If you guys have any questions during, after, whatever, just raise your hand, and we'll do the best we can to answer any questions you guys may have. Okay, so, yes, we're D&D Laser Screed. We're out of Lake Elsinore. We travel pretty much from the Bay Area to Arizona, Utah, Nevada, down to the border. So we're all over the place. We specialize in laser screeds, place and finish, soft cutting, laser grading, which we perform most of that stuff on your guys' landmark project right here. This is an older model laser screed. This is the S240. Pretty much it's capable of doing everything the new ones are capable of doing. The controls are a little different. It doesn't have the rotating head on it. Robert, you got some specs right off the top
Yeah,
of
it's
your head, right?
got a smaller auger on it, so it takes a little bit of a smaller bite. It's more bulletproof than the newer stuff. That's electronics.
It'll take, what, 240 square feet?
Yeah. Each pass is about 1 minute, give or take. About 1 minute. So this machine has a 12-foot auger on it, so it gets about 240 square feet at one pass. Considering the slump and aggregate size and thickness of the slab.
What slump you did before?
The machine prefers a 5-inch slump, but it'll pour anything to a 2.5. We've done some taxiway stuff for Pave Tech up in Fallon, Nevada, where we just pull it straight off, and they had consolidation questions. They just cut the edge right off, and there was an answer right there. Everything was consolidated, and it was fine. Most of the machines that we have now are the SXPs, which have a 14-foot head. It's got a 1-foot offset on each side, so it gets a 16-foot strike in each pass.
How far down do you vibrate? How big is that before?
We've done, on the Air Force one, we've done 16 inches. Had a 2-inch slump. It's a nasty mix. It still gets consolidation, yes.
Yeah, that's a 650 flex, right?
Yep.
On that, yeah.
It's a nasty mix. And the same thing, so another 240.
As you can see, like, this pour here's got steel in it, so people are always asking, well, how do you guys pour on top of steel if it's already lifted? Well, in cases like this, it's not lifted, they lift as we go. So as he moves over and makes his next strike, they start lifting the steel, and when we get to the end, we come back, and so on and so forth. It's just a pattern effect. So that way the steel's always lifted, we're not running over lifted steel and stuff, hitting the rebar.
Just like a typewriter.
Yep.
And then you come back, put it to the other side.
The screed works from left to right all the time. It cannot change. The auger spins to the right, so it spins all the leftover that it's cutting to the right. So you can never change pour direction.
Have you found that you've actually been able to use, or I should say maximize the amount of concrete because of that action of the auger?
Well, I'll just go back to slump, because then, the wetter the slump, the more it boils, the smaller bite you gotta take. So you get a little bit tighter slump, and you can use the entire head. So it's just typical concrete where the variables are right there with everything else.
Depends on.
You're limited to half a pass with 2-inch slump?
You're limited to a half pass with 2-inch slump, correct?
Yeah. So this is what we call a 3D pour. So this is multi-contoured. It's got rolls, it's got breaks, flow lines, things like that. Now, as you can see, it doesn't have receivers, laser receivers on it. It's got a prism. So what we do prior to a pour like this was paving around a big building, is you would go out and there would be elevations preset on any grade breaks or things that they graded for, or the way that it was designed to get water out. And we would actually plot in points with a computer and a total station, just like a surveyor would. And then we would mesh those points after we were done taking them all, and it would create a 3D model basically of your paving section on site. So, like a parking structure, for instance, slab on grades, a lot of times they'll have grade breaks going to drains at the bottom. So this machine here can actually create that depending on how tight those grade breaks are, because we still have to take into consideration that it's got a 12-foot head or a 14-foot head on the front of it, so it's going to be a straight edge wherever we put that down. But it works really good for open paving sections, you know, things around big buildings. We've used them in the bottom of parking structure, slab on grades before. The only problem is this cannot be blocked, so it's got to have line of sight all the time. So if you were thinking about a parking structure, the columns would have to be left low in order for it to keep contact all the time.
And it doesn't react as quick as the laser does itself, so it goes a little bit slower.
Tolerances are a little,
Yeah.
yeah, they're not quite as good on the three-dimensional stuff as they are a laser.
This is 50% of our business is 3D paving.
This is Union Pacific. So these are dowel baskets, and this was, were you here when we did this, Robert?
Probably,
Anyways, this is being placed with a telebelt, as you can see. And a lot of times, if it's a really low slump, like some of these things are, the telebelt's the way to go because it doesn't affect the way that it puts the mud down. Those are some big spreads on the dowel baskets there too. Anyways, this looks like it's probably a pretty thick paving section. Same deal. This looks like it's probably a multi-contour paving section. With dowel baskets, same thing. They're going bay after bay after bay, and we're working our way out here.
Something like this is a little easier to do because you can go from basket to basket, which is all kind of joint to joint. That's a little easier just as far as the placement goes for everybody and making sure that the bar, sometimes the bar gets, if the guys pour too high, it'll go up underneath the machine and the guys have a hard time getting the rebar out. So this, you don't have to worry about that. And dowel basket seems to be the way everybody's going lately.
This is a regular building slab, 65,000 square foot pour, and this is, a lot of times these slabs have like a single slope to them or a dual slope to them, so we can use the laser on a single or compound slope, but they've got to be even on the parallel sides. So if it's sloping 0.5% this way, it's got to slope the even percentage, it doesn't have to be half, but it can slope 1% this way. But if you have one of those parallel sides that aren't sloping the same, like 1.5, then it won't work with the laser.
And then it goes 3D.
Then it goes to the three-dimensional thing.
How long does it take you to place 65,000 square feet?
Something like this with no rebar in it, you can pour that in 7 hours with good service.
With rebar?
With rebar, you can slow down a little bit. You can probably,
10 hours?
yeah, 9.
This is an old picture, as you can see, there's guys with no hard hats on.
I noticed that early on.
Probably before 1970.
We were focusing on the technique.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, so.
The handle position with his gloves on.
Anyways, this is kind of showing the finishing process a little bit here. He's at the end of the pour, these guys are panning it. So anytime we do a pour, we hit it with a pan all the time. We never not hit it with a pan. And if you guys don't know what that is, it looks like a big pizza pan. It goes underneath whether we're using a riding trowel or a walk behind, it goes underneath it, smooths it out, takes the bumps out, flattens it. That's what these guys are doing right now. They're just hitting it with the pan machine.
I have to say, one of the things, when these folks were out there using a lot of this equipment at Landmark that I commented on was that their actual equipment still looks like that. Okay? It actually is neat. I was amazed, if you remember.
Yeah.
I mean, I could not believe that, and that actually shows the attention to detail that these gentlemen put on their crews, down to that. And it really was, I'd say, a theme throughout their whole process. I actually was really impressed by that. I knew that they maintained their equipment. I didn't have to ride on them about any of that stuff because of that, and that was something that I was very impressed with.
Well, that's the biggest hurdle, you know, the impression, the first thing you do when you roll out, you see a leaking machine, and you got a bad feeling.
Yeah, it
off
was
the
the no
bat.
hard hat thing that just threw me off.
This is a hand rod pour. So, you know, of course, we don't just do screed pours. We do parking structures, elevated decks, podium decks. We have a huge place of finish division. So basically, this is just a picture of one of the pours. We're finishing up a couple projects down here right now, and we have lots of projects going on up north right now.
I wanna note that, just because you have a slab like this doesn't always mean it's the street can fit in there and do the most effective job. It always comes down to cost too, so, you know, it is a good tool to use, not always the right answer.
What would be a cost per square foot of your machine for?
It's generally right around for non-prevailing wage, it's about 10 cents, and for prevailing wage, it's 12 to 15, just depends on what we're pouring. We have 15,000 square foot minimum. We'll generally ask if there's protrusions in there that is down lower than the largest size of your aggregate. So if you have, you know, electrical or plumbing that's below grade, it needs to be at least an inch. If you're using 1 inch rock, it needs to be at least an inch.
Your machines are diesel powered,
They're all
Yes.
diesel powered, yeah.
or will be out there?
You gotta get
Don't confine.
Ventilation for sure.
ventilation is, yeah.
Now, we do pour inside of buildings, we've poured a lot inside of buildings, but it's ventilation. We have to keep track of that stuff, so whether or not you're ventilating through the roof, or through windows, or doors, or whatnot, fans, whatever you have
So
to.
you have done this inside?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
and they'll monitor yeah.
Good.
air
Generally, you
quality.
get less with the diesel than you do the gas.
Yeah,
You
for
know,
sure.
You get it
Also,
more out of the
they're not
riders.
propane powered, obviously.
No,
No.
no.
These are soft cut machines is another service we provide. These guys are cutting a tilt slab, but we do everything. We do pool decks, to, you know, big wide open slabs, paving, whatever we can do. But these are 4200s, these cover a lot of ground. This is what we mainly use, so.
That revolutionized an industry right there, and that tool made big pours possible with all these little construction joints all over the place.
What's the difference between that and just regular cut off, regular?
That's the dry saw instead of wet saw, so you get on it early
Yeah.
entry, get on it early.
Yeah,
Bigger.
usually cut the day of the pour, so,
Absolutely.
yeah.
And that's more, I'm gonna say, from a safety standpoint, I would rather cut when it's green than when it's completely cured, because it reduces the airborne particles that become a hazard to the individuals that are actually cutting it. It also becomes less of a SWIPS violation that we have to maintain also. So there's a lot of safety reasons why I would want to cut it when it's still green versus when it's completely dry.
And we also have the vacuum attachments.
It's done, it
And
goes.
cost too. It's
Yeah.
a lot cheaper
Time,
than the
cost,
wet saw.
safety, add a lot of factors.
We have vacuum attachments that go to these for indoor pours or for
Turner.
Walmart's. Walmart's big on the vacuums, they like to see it being vacuumed, so it attaches and it sucks up all the particulates as it goes. So there's really no cleanup afterwards. That's just a few of the things that we do, so we'll move on to some of these miscellaneous pictures.
This book that we gave you is really a good tool. It has the weights, the sizes, things that you know, come up later on down the line. And this is a good tool to actually keep on hand.
I don't know why I can't pull
Rotate
this.
it.
Yes, it won't let me.
Picture of yours.
Huh?
never follows what we should.
Richard?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, he's not here.
He is here, actually, I just saw him.
Where is he?
So these pictures were taken after a late Friday.
See, all they do is go like this, it's perfect, I don't know what you guys are talking about, okay, I see it fantastic.
This is that new telephoto
Okay,
lens.
look at,
Comes on at 2 AM on Friday. That's not even
oh my goodness, so you have to go like this on all of them.
We're consistent. There you go.
Oh, wait, I don't know why is it going like crazy, I'll be back here, click buttons.
Don't push buttons.
How do I get out of this, so I know what picture I'm on?
You gotta keep your head sideways.
Yeah.
I just keep going.
See down at the
This
very
picture
bottom, see the very bottom, those two arrows?
Yeah.
There we go.
It didn't fall off.
This picture here was actually on Morley's job. This was out in Camp Pendleton, and this was the hangar we did in the back. That's all right.
I didn't
Sure.
Anyways, the reason I like this picture is because there was actually a guy, I know you're just messing with me, it's fine.
That's just on side, yeah. On a time lapse, on a slideshow.
How do we get it?
Don't maximize
And
it.
it shows you how how close the guys actually do work close to this machine.
Yeah. So on,
Leave it in that mode.
is it good?
Yeah. just
Okay.
move on.
Yeah, so anyways, yeah, the guys are working right in front of the machine, usually a shovel guy because he's trying to make sure the holes are filled as we're making a pass. So as far as safety is concerned, there's a pinch point, crush points right there in between the screed with the guys. So, you know, it's just as much the guys on the ground responsibility as it is the operators to keep an eye on everybody, but also these machines, and I believe it has it in the books, these machines will reach 20 feet. Now, we typically don't reach 20 feet all the time, but, you know, on an overlap, we have to keep the bays down to 15, so we have something to set back on so that it's consistent and the slab comes out with no bumps or humps or
This is
anything.
the way it works. When they pour it on the ground, the plow cuts everything but 3/4 of an inch. Once the cube makes the pull, 3/4 of an inch goes by the plow, and the auger cuts everything but 1/4 of an inch. Once that 1/4 of an inch goes past the auger, then that vibrator consolidates the rest. So it's within a one swoop motion.
Yep. This is a big paving pour out in Moreno Valley. We do our paving with walk-behind machines, even though this is probably 50,000 square feet or so. Because of the paving and it's being broomed, the guys who usually use the walk-behinds, but there again, we use the pan machines first, seal, blimpy, broom.
The reason we don't use the riders on something like that is because you gotta wait so long. The machine's a lot heavier, so you gotta wait a little bit longer, you end up chasing it, and you get a little bit of a lighter broom as opposed to a medium broom. The double screed pour we just did in Redlands, where we used 2 screeds running off the same laser.
Yeah, we had 2 pumps running, it was 800 grams.
We poured it 4 hours,
Yeah, we poured that in 4 hours, it was 50,000 square feet,
and this is on Stego too, so you can pour directly on Stego.
with rebar on top. Yeah, that's another shot of the sample.
Same thing.
Uh-huh. Yeah, it's,
Oh, sorry.
that's it. Yeah, so on the Stego thing, we're capable of doing it, the guys that are lifting the rebar and setting the dobies, of course, it's the puncture deal. Everybody's worried about puncturing the plastic, so as long as you don't run the dobies over and the guys are doing what they're supposed to be doing on the ground, really, it's minimal taping or filling in holes that may get, punctured, but it works. I mean, people say, oh, you can't pour on plastic with rebar. Well, yes, you can, so.
Just the one that won't rotate for me.
That's okay. That's a big paving for it. I think that one's like 60-something thousand square feet. Yeah. So I think that first picture was at Nathan and the foreign, this is the next one.
This is the same job site.
I believe so,
Same
yeah.
project.
Yeah, this is,
Procter & Gamble.
It's a great picture.
so, yeah, so as you can see, the prism up there, that's what's getting the signal from the total station. And then this is a tailgate pour, so we're just tailgating the mud out of the trucks. And then you can see how, where the guy's standing, and he basically has to start from the top and work his way back to the machine just as he's making the strike to make sure that all the holes are filled in.
We get all of our elevations on site. You can't plug it from a grader's CAD and just plug in our machine and expect it to go the same thickness. It doesn't work that way. We have to get our elevations on site. And it doesn't work off a satellite, bounce back and forth. It works directly from the geometer to, it follows the infrared, but it's actually reading the prism, the mirrors on the prism, and then it tells it where it needs to go up or down, and what slope is it, forward or back, or how fast you're pulling. It tells you all that stuff.
Okay, so this picture's also on Morley's job, and this was a single mat pour, but it was really big rebar, so they were trying to figure out a way to lift the rebar without the guys getting hurt. So as we're screeding, they are trying to lift the rebar, it's super heavy, so they came up with a pretty brilliant idea with this digging bar here, and they hooked a chain or welded a chain to it, and they're able to get the leverage and pick it up, and these guys were stuffing dobies underneath.
And we use that same thing for double mat, too.
Yeah.
So if you have a double mat pour, we use the exact same thing.
Yep. Yeah, so double mat pours can be done with the laser screed. It's just a little bit more work on the labor side for making it happen. This is back to that same job. Yeah, so this was 28,000 feet, and I think that it was about 8 inches thick. And everything went per plan. We used a telebelt on this job, and it came out super flat. This is Morley's job.
We're at the beginning.
Yep, that's it. So, does anybody have any questions on what the machine can and can't do, what it's capable of? Anybody? No? The specs on every machine that we have are in here. So the SXP being the newest of our fleet, it gives you overall width, length, height. So if you have to get it in a building, it gives you the height that you need. And you want to put some buffer on that, because that's to the top of the machine. You gotta have a guy driving the machine in.
Yeah, typically we ask for an 8 by 10 opening. An 8
You
by
wouldn't
10
believe how many
opening.
people try to stuff that in, that exact
You
measurement.
said it would go in there. Can the machine be picked by a crane and
I had that recently asked, as long as whoever wants to pick it has a rigging guy that knows what they're doing, because,
Yeah, it's 17,000 pounds.
Right, yeah, so it's not that heavy. Are there pick points on it?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll grab that.
Yes,
Yeah,
and there are pick points on it.
yep. Yeah, the 240 is the older version, but it gives you all the same information that you would need. And then, of course, the trowel specs, so if you need to get the trowels in the back of a building or somewhere that you're not sure about, it gives you dimensions. The grader, which we also used at Landmark Project, and we used at Camp Pendleton Project. That'll grade the sand within about a 1/4 inch or base. And it can do compound slope as well.
The screed won't go more than 10%.
Yeah,
So does that motor, the laser grid?
it'll do the same, it'll go steep about 10%. You know, whatever the laser will do, we can't use that on the multi-contour stuff. So the 3-dimensional stuff where we'd have to plot points, this machine isn't adapted for that. So anything that we can do with a laser, a dual sloping laser, we can do with that machine.
Without the lasers, you were free riding it, you could go more than 10%. I mean, and I just, you know, it appears to be like a skid loader.
Yeah, it kind of is. It looks like a blade, but it's about the size of a skip loader. It's got a 10-foot moldboard in the middle. Yeah, it'll do some things. I mean, it's somewhat limited too, and its length is
Yeah,
kind of long too, but, it does have a vibrating roller on the back, so it can get compaction. Maybe not a 95, but you're probably, because it's so light, but 90s would be fine with that machine. Yeah, so the specs are all in here. If you guys have any questions, our numbers are on the back. I think that's about it.
I will get all of those photos